and welcome back to TNN's coverage of the world's 9 best fantasy football players league. I'm your host, and this is what we have for you this week. Week 5 games are now behind us, and teams are looking to move into that inter-divisional play. Week 5 had a big performance from Blinded by the Tight End, with them beating the previous record for highest points scored in a single week. TNN reached out to Blinded by the Tight End leadership to see what they had to say.
Well, first off, I want to thank TNN for reaching out. It's always a pleasure to give comment, kind of talk about how things are going with the team. We're an open book. This team's a family, and we love to share how things are going. And that being said, I think we all saw that this team didn't start the season the way we really expected, an 0-2 start, and everyone was really feeling down about our chances. But I looked at those guys and said, I've got your back if you got mine. Let's just give it our best this week. And they did it, and they did it again. And they saw what Court is now in session was doing out there, and props to those guys. They've got a great team over there. And they said, Coach, I think we've got it in us. And I said, I think so too. And they really stepped out there and just showed off what I believed in them and what the fans believe. But what it really comes down to is those guys in there believe in themselves, and I think they're going to continue to put up these great performances. And I think we've got some magic coming this season.
Also, the Texarkana Bandits have been on an 0-3 slide ever since releasing their hype video. TNN reached out to the Bandits to see what they had to say in regards to some alleging that they might have cursed themselves. We've been made aware of rumors that the Bandits are under some type of supposed curse. There's absolutely no credence to these rumors, and our organization will give absolutely no credence to them. All future correspondence on this issue should be directed to our newly hired Director of Public Relations, Shaman Wula Mulung. And now, here is Danny Football with his picks for Week 6.
Hey, what's up, guys? World's 9 best fantasy football players expert, Danny Football here, back with another week of expert predictions. Last week was pretty good for me, going 4-2, bringing my total on the year up to 20-10. My guest, Nooch, also had a pretty good showing at 4-2. Unfortunately for him, not able to beat the expert, because as we all know, the tie goes to the expert. But now, it's a new week. We've got a new guest and a new chance to beat the expert. So guests, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
What's up, TNN Nation? Jacob Calathor here, owner, manager, controlling GM, potential Urban Meyer hirer. Not a John Gruden hirer, though. Let's get that out of the way. Of the historic franchise to infinity and beyond. Danny Football, thanks for having me. Long-time listener, second-time caller. Hoping to make it a third at the end of the season after I beat you with my picks, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, we'll see about that one. All right, first up, we have...
Before you get into the pick predictions and all that stuff, there's something I gotta get off my chest. There's been a lot of discussions about imposter division, crewman division. Oh, Miguel would be 5-0 if he was in the imposter division. Well, let me just ask you this, Tooch. Don't you think it's a little...
Who's Tooch? Who's Tooch?
Sorry, Danny Football. Let me just ask you this, Danny Football. Don't you think it's a little suspicious that the division with the best teams managed to pick first overall? Doesn't that confuse you a little bit? And you know what? Let me bring some stats into the conversation. Let's look at last year's league standings. If we go by max points for, by many league experts will say that is the appropriate way of judging team strength, not through regular season record. Just so people are aware, many league experts do say that. Who might I say has the lowest max points for? Why, none other than the team currently known as Bunk Go to Mahorny Jail. And yet, who picked first overall? Danny Football, can you enlighten the
It
audience?
was undefeated, never lost, of course.
Member of the crewman division, despite not having the worst team. You know, I believe in American history, there was a time where people who weren't in the worst situations got better advantages and better picks and better lifestyle opportunities than teams who are actually in the worst possible positions. Something along the lines of redlining and segregation, stuff like that. I mean, you're in law school. You know, you might be reading about this stuff now. I'm not well read like you are, but it just kind of rings a bell, and it really makes you question the integrity of the league when teams that are supposedly better than everyone else are getting the first overall pick, and really makes you question the integrity of the league. And that's why I'm predicting, this is separate than my actual predictions with Danny Football, I'm predicting a clean sweep for the so-called imposter division. Okay? A clean sweep, 6-0 this week against the crewmen.
Wow, a lot of accusations thrown around there. I would like to point out, draft order for the teams not making the playoffs this year is going to be determined by max points for.
Hey,
so
the moral arch of the universe bends towards justice, Danny Football, and that's all we can ask for. You know.
That's true.
All we can
that's
ask
true.
For. I appreciate the change.
All right, first up, we have Court is now in session, taking on the Texarkana Bandits. Court favored in this one, 85%. Who do you like here?
So, this interesting matchup here. You know, I'm a fan of the show, Danny Football, so I know.
I'm glad to hear that.
I know that you are high on the Bandits. However, despite my earlier prediction about 6-0, Bandits have been on a downward trend, losing 3 in a row. Things are not looking good. There are rumors, hints, swirls in the wind that star players on the Bandits might be purchasable at the correct price if you're willing to chase the market.
Wow.
You know, but you got to act swiftly to achieve that goal. And I think that team discord and the lack of success in recent weeks, I don't think it's enough for Calamari to pull it off. You know, I'm going to have to stick with Court is now in session. They've got arguably the best running back, pure runner in the league, in Nick Chubb. Great wide receiver depth. Consistently, they've been on a tear this whole season. I'm picking Court is now in session to win in the landslide.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good pick there. And also, I'd like to applaud the going right up to the line with tampering there. That's very, very admirable. This is one it's actually pretty tough for me. This is basically the Danny Football pick equivalent of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object.
Of course. With
the Court going up against the Bandits, because fans of the show are gonna know that I'm high on the Bandits. Last week, fans of the show will also know that last week I said the Bandits cannot be the lowest scoring team in the league 3 weeks in a row. And I'd like to report that I was correct. They were the second lowest scoring team in the league. The Court, on the other hand, could be in for some issues at running back. They've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, David Montgomery, some injuries. They're going to be out for a little bit. They've got Myles Gaskin to fill in, but the Dolphins, not great. I don't know if he's going to be able to step up. I'm going to trust my expert instincts on this one and say that the Court is going to convict the Bandits of fraud. I'm going with the Court. Next up, we have Blinded by the Tight End versus Bonk. Go to Mahorny Jail. Blinded by the Tight End favored at an 81% chance to win. Blinded by the Tight End, it's a team they've really stormed back recently, winning 3 in a row after losing their first few, putting up the largest score in league history last week. They only let the previous record held by Court is now in session stand for 1 week. So they could be in for a long-held record here. They've had some monster performances from Justin Herbert, Derrick Henry, and Devontae Adams. All great, fantastic players, but I do not expect them to keep that pace up. They're going up against a team in Bonk that is sneakily, like very sneakily, atop the Imposters division right now. A lot of people were pretty low on this team going into the year, but they've had a very nice start so far. They got a really solid tight end group. Cooper Kupp has slowed down a little bit, but he's still been a really solid option. There is a lot to like from Bonk. Unfortunately, they are running into an absolute buzzsaw in Blinded by the Tight Ends, who I expect to keep rolling this week. I'm going with Blinded by the Tight End here.
It's a good pick. I gotta applaud you for sticking to your guns there. I'm actually, I'll be honest, I was a little surprised this was not the marquee matchup of the week, so I'm looking forward to figuring out which one is. I will say, I did have this matchup circled preseason for one reason and one reason only, to see Deshaun Watson go up against a team named Bonk go to Mahorny Jail. And without that added drama, I can see why it was bumped down from the... It was flexed out of the 820 spot. We'll say that. So I agree. Blinded by the tight end, they're coming in very hot, but I do think Bonk go to Mahorny Jail is one of the most complete teams in the league right now. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to come back with a vengeance after a not so Mahomesian performance this past week. However, they do have a tough matchup going against Devontae Adams, and as we all know, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams simply enjoy beating up on the Cubs more. The Bears. Oh,
they're gonna look like the Cubs this weekend.
They're gonna look like the
me.
Cubs this weekend. It's just fate, Justin Fields looking pretty good for Chicago, but it's the Packers. You got to do what you got to do. And so for this one, I'm going with Bonk, go to Mahorny Jail.
All right.
In a close one.
Moving on, we have Undefeated Never Lost versus Team Big Chungus 22. Undefeated Never Lost, 98% chance to win at the time of recording. Expecting that to drop by the time Will finally gets around to setting his lineup. What are your thoughts on this one?
So, a lot of discussion about Undefeated Never Lost, about how they'd be a good team if they were simply in another division. And, the great Bill Parcells said, "You are what your record says you are." And Miguel, Undefeated Never Lost, Danny, you are 0-5. And you're about to be 0-6. I have full faith in the Chungai to pull off this supposed upset according to sleeper predictions. But everybody knows there's no shot. Chunga people, 24/7, full steam ahead, full support. I'm all in on the Chunguses.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick here. As everyone knows, sleeper predictions, complete garbage, except for when they're not. One thing to look out for, and this one is if Chris Carson plays. If he does, it's going to be a big boost for Undefeated Never Lost. If he doesn't, big boost for the Chunguses, who picked up Alex Collins with that hefty $10 fab bid. An interesting thing I'd like to point out, I was doing a little deep dive into Undefeated Never Lost. They've had some very bad luck this year. They've gone up against the top scoring team in the league each week up until this last week, where they went up against the second highest scoring team in the league. In fact, Undefeated Never Lost luck is so bad that they have not won a game since they released their infamous hype video in week 9 of last year. That is 12 losses in a row for this team, dating back to last year. Some might say that there's a hype video curse in the league. I might say. And expert analysis, I might say. This is, Undefeated Never Lost is a very easy team to pick against. But experts know to zig when others zag. I'm going with Undefeated Never Lost to end their curse and get a big win against the Chunguses in this one.
I will double down on my statement, and I will proclaim that Team Big Chungus 22 will be the highest scoring team in the league this week, just to continue the curse that undefeated never lost has put among what is the phrase? Like, put among themselves?
You know what? I like that so much. If that comes true, I'm gonna give you an extra point in our matchup. So it'll be like an extra correct pick for you.
Oh, I like
a little
that.
bonus.
I like that.
All right, next up we have Ham and Throw versus the Mental Brick Walls. Ham and Throw favorite here, 97% chance to win. Another one expects that to come down. Ham and Throw, they had a pretty big showing last week, but it still was not enough to get the win. There's been a lot of talk from Ham and Throw team leadership about how much bad luck they've had going up against other high-scoring teams. I would like to point out another team. I did a deep dive, deep expert analysis here. They had 3 wins last year. 3 wins where they were among the bottom 4 scoring teams in the league that week. So I don't want to hear about any bad luck that this team has had. They've had 1 bad week this year where they were a high-scoring team and lost. So I don't want to hear anything. This team, they've already proven they cannot stay hot. They're going to have a big week one week and then plummet back down to earth the next week. But the question here is, will that fall back down to earth put them lower than this Mental Brick Walls team? The Brick Walls are in really rough shape right now. They're sitting at 2-3. They had the lowest score in the league last week. Probably should be tanking. Kittle got put on IR, and their best trade asset, Stephon Diggs, has not been performing as a wide receiver 1 this year. This is not a team I have a lot of faith in right now, and for that reason, I am very reluctantly, but I'm still going to pick Ham and Throw in this one.
I understand your decision-making process there. I just like to point out this is an interesting matchup because we have the Mental Brick Walls, noted mentally strong team, going up against the most Charmin, paper-soft team in the league, Ham and Throw. 3 teams made big acquisitions this summer to make a big push for the title. Of course, my own team, To Infinity Beyond, acquiring Aaron Jones. Big running back trades, I should say. McKiss My Balls will cover them eventually, making the trade for Zeke. And then there's Ham and Throw going for Dalvin Cook. The other 2 teams winning records, clearly managers showing some kind of foresight, knowing what their team needs. It's tough to say the same about Ham and Throw. You just have to question team leadership. You have to question the young guys on the team, like Tom Brady. Who knows how many years he's got left? Like, how do they feel about putting in, their best years, watching a 45-year-old man just skate through? It's really tough. And so, in spite of all the evidence suggesting that Ham and Throw should be the easiest lock, and despite Mental Brick Walls not having the incredible Atlanta backfield duo of Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson due to bye weeks, I'm bucking the trend. I'm going against the analytics. I'm going against all the nerds on Sleeper telling me this team can't win. This guy's projected to put up 20 points. And I'm going with the Mental Brick Walls to drive Ham and Throw further down the totem pole until there's just nothing left in sight for him anymore.
Next up, we have the Twisted Tees taking on Team M Vanek. Tees favored in this one, 79%. Who do you like here?
I really feel for the Twisted Tees. Getting the first overall pick in our startup drafting arguably fantasy-wise Hall of Fame caliber player in Christian McCaffrey, and the guy just can't stay healthy. It's tough to see, and you really hate injuries, and you hate to see that. But unfortunately, this is a grown man's league. This is a grown man's game, and injuries are part of it. And you gotta play with what you can, and you just gotta keep moving forward. In this one, though, I do think the Twisted Tees have enough to pull out a victory against Team M Vanek, another team that before the season, many thought would be trusting the process and engaging in a tank-like behavior. I will say it is interesting to see what effect that the Ben Simmons return on the Philadelphia 76ers has on, team morale and Team Vanek and his management and leadership decisions? Does he bring in, a random guy off the bench to put in the starting lineup? Try to catch lightning in the bottle. We'll see what happens. But I'm going with the Twisted Teas to win this one.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good pick. Somehow both of these teams are 3-2 right now. Team Vanek would not have expected that at the start of the year. They are doing a terrible job of trusting the process. Although I will point out they do have the second lowest max points for at the moment. So if they do miss the playoffs, they would be in line for a good pick. They got lucky, or I guess in their case unlucky, last week picking up a win, despite being the third lowest scoring team in the league. Twisted Teas, on the other hand, they had a big showing from Lamar on Monday Night Football, but to really speak to the state of this team right now, Jeremy McNichols, who's in their starting lineup, was not even the lowest scorer on their offense last week. Really speaks volumes about where this team's at right now. But the Tees do have a pretty solid defense. They've got Judon, Diggs, and despite their injuries, McCaffrey may possibly be coming back, which would be a big boost to them. I'm going to pick the Tees in this one. Finally, we have our marquee matchup of the week, McKiss Maballs versus To Infinity and Beyond. To Infinity favored at 57% in this one. Pretty close matchup. Both of these teams are firmly in the playoff hunt. They were both playoff teams last year. It's a marquee matchup. They both want to pick up the win. I think it's going to be a litmus test for both of these teams to see how they're looking rolling into the trade deadline coming up kind of soon. Might want to make some moves. McKiss, they put up over 250 points last week. They've gotten over 200 in each of the last 3 weeks. The only thing going wrong for this team right now is that their owner could not beat this expert last week. And, also that guy Saquon got injured. It's not great, but, not nearly as important as not being able to beat the expert.
Absolutely.
Now, let's turn to Infinity and Beyond. Their quarterback situation is a mess. Tannehill, Baker, they've been very underwhelming this year, and I do not even want to get started on team namesake Tua. Their RBs, pretty solid, can't argue with that, but their defense has a ton of holes, not a lot of big scores. They're kind of looking worse than the Chiefs out there right now, and that's not great. And I keep in mind, this is a team without a pick until the third round of next year's draft. If I was them, I would be pretty worried.
This year's draft, just to clarify, this year's draft.
If I was them, I would be pretty worried unless my team starts to kick it into high gear soon. And the crewman division is going to be a big test for this team over the next couple weeks. I think they're going to fail that first test, and I'm going with McKiss here.
I got to respect you for sticking to your guns and sticking to your decision. I can't say I agree, but we'll get to the reasoning there. So, I just got, as a neutral third-party observer, not affiliated with To Infinity and Beyond currently, putting on a different hat for today's interview. I just got to hand it to both of these owners, making the moves this summer, acquiring Zeke and Aaron Jones, both top 8 running backs so far this season. When push comes to shove, you got to do what you got to do. And Trey Sermon apparently fucked Kyle Shanahan's wife or something. I don't get it, but Elijah Mitchell on the bench doing a good job holding down the fort for the 49ers. I think Tua potentially coming off the IR this week. Last year in his first start, this team was baited into starting Tua against all good advice. There is a chance that a similar similar decision is made this season, in this game, in this week, against this team. But I think for the sake of the marquee matchup, I will refrain from shenanigans just to protect the purity of this show and the TNN network. However, Jamar Chase, unstoppable. Jamar Chase in the 2-minute drill might be the greatest wide receiver of all time. And I don't think that McKiss My Balls will be doing anything except kissing my balls this weekend when I just slap them with the first 200-plus score of the season for To Infinity and Beyond.
I like that. I like that pick. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for being on the show this week. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Wishing you all the best of luck with your picks. Of course, not as good as me. Can't beat the expert. I'd like to point out, in case you didn't know, I picked the Crewman division to go for the clean sweep this week. I picked them in every single matchup. So you're going to be in for a tough time, I think. But it's been nice to have you on, and hopefully we'll be able to get you back on the show at some point.
Danny Football, I appreciate you for having us. Thanks for doing this every week. I love you.
Love you too, bud.
Thank you, Danny Football and guest Jacob, for those great picks. That's all we have for you this time. Be sure to come back next week to see how things shook out. I'm your host, and this has been TNN.
A lot of accusations to be thrown around there at the league. That's I'm sure that'll come up when I'm applying to the bar. Flying high with a glowing outlook on the season after starting out 2-0.
Crikey! I've lost my mojo!
Let me take a look at it. You know what the problem is?
What?
You got it set to M for mini, when it should be set to W for Wumbo.
Curse is broken. Curse is broken, people! Mojo, baby, yeah! Hit it!